Hello, Hornets. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be taking a look at the law of cosine, and we're going to start with our proof for the law of cosine. Now, in working with the proof, what we're going to do is we're going to draw just a triangle, just like we did with the law of sine. I'm going to have an A. I'm going to go ahead and call this B and C, which means that this side down here is going to be a C. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a height. Our height, being an altitude, is perpendicular to our opposite side. I'm going to call this piece x, so that this is c minus x. We have this side that is A opposite the angle A, and this will be B opposite the angle B. Now, you'll notice, just like we did with our law of sine, if I have this angle here, I can say that I'm going to be having this height, and this height is going to be B sine of angle A. And with this, we can now do the Pythagorean theorem. After all, we have two right triangles. They're not congruent, but that's okay. So if we work with this bigger right triangle, we have B squared has to equal its side, C minus X, the quantity squared, plus the side, which is our height, B squared sine squared A. We also have this smaller triangle here, and we can see that that's going to have the hypotenuse A squared equal to X squared plus, once again, B squared sine squared of angle A. Now, I notice in this that I've got a piece right here, and you'll notice that we need to FOIL that out. So we're going to rewrite it. We're going to write it FOILing it out. Remember, that's C minus X times C minus X. And as we do it, we end up with C squared minus 2CX, and then we have plus X squared. Don't forget that last piece, B squared sine squared A. There we go. Now, once we have it, we're going to need to try to get rid of the x's. So I'm going to get rid of my x by first solving x, right here. And I know that x squared is going to be a squared minus b squared sine squared of a. Well, that helps. But what's x? Well, in order to find x, I'm going to look at this triangle here. You notice if I come at it from angle B, I'm looking at my hypotenuse and my adjacent side. So I can say that x is really a times the cosine, excuse me. Let me get an eraser real quick. Cosine of angle B. Again, that's from the Pythagorean theorem. And now I have what x is and I have what x squared is, and I'm going to replace them both right here. So I have b squared equaling c squared minus 2c times x, which is a cosine of angle B, plus, I'm now going to replace my x squared, and I have a squared minus b squared sine squared a, and then plus b squared sine squared a. Well, the c's are going to cancel. Well, I'm going to rewrite this, so I have b squared equaling a squared plus c squared, they're both positive, minus 2ca cosine of angle B. This is one of the three formulas for the law of cosine. Notice the pattern. If I have a b squared that I'm looking for the side B, I have angle B. We have a squared and c squared adding up, and then we have this minus. So let's just go ahead and put that together as, well, what if I have a squared I'm looking for? That's going to give me b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of angle A. And if I do it with the c squared has to equal a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of angle C. These are the three formulas that we use with our law of cosine. What we're going to do is next take a problem, and with that problem, we're going to use the law of cosine to see how it works. We're going to go through an entire problem. Hang on just one moment. Alrighty, thank you for that moment. Let's take a look at a problem. Now, keep in mind that when we're working with the law of cosines, we're going to end up having this side angle side situation or side side side. All right, so those are the perspectives that we're looking at. And I've created a problem where we have angle C, which is 60 degrees. We have side A, which is 10, side B, which is 14. And we're going to try and find side C. Now we know that C squared has to then equal A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of angle C. And we're going to put in everything that we have. C squared equals our A squared, which is 10 squared, plus our B squared, 14 squared, minus 2 times 10 times 14 times the cosine of 60 degrees. Now, in order for us to put it in our calculator exactly, we're going to have to take the square root first. And what we want to put in is the square root of 10 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 10 times 14 times the cosine of angle 60 degrees. We're going to put this directly into our calculator exactly as we see it. So I am in degree mode already. Let me zoom in on this so you can see it. And I'm going to put in exactly what I have here. So quit, and we have the square root of 10 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 10 times 14 times the cosine of 60 degrees. We hit enter, and we find our value for side C. Now we can have all three sides now, and side C is approximately 12.4899, and I'm just going to go ahead and start listing it. So I have angle A, angle B, angle C, side C, let's do side A first and do it in alphabetical order, then B, then C. Now you're going to want to use this value, so we have to put it into our calculator so that we get the best approximation we can. If you don't, you're going to be off by a small amount, and that could cost you. After all, we're going to be trying to find our angle now. Okay, so I've got all three. I'm going to want to store this, and because it was side C, I'm going to put it in second. Let's try that again. Store in alpha C. It's now in our calculator. Now, in order for us to find an angle, such as angle A, we're going to have to work backward. So notice, if I'm looking for angle A, I know that A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of angle A. That's what we want to solve for right here. So I'm going to have to subtract both sides, B squared, so I have A squared minus B squared. I'm going to subtract C squared, and you'll notice I'm going to have to get rid of that negative 2BC. To do that, I'm going to divide by negative 2BC. Negative 2BC. I then have A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by negative 2BC is equal to the cosine of A. And I'm now ultimately dividing by this cosine function. This is what we call the arc cosine. So on the opposite side, I'm going to put the arc cosine. This will now allow me to find A. And A will have to be approximately, excuse me, I just said will have to be, and I wrote B. That's funny. Let's try that again. The arc cosine of, well, our A is 10, so we have 10 squared minus 14 squared minus the value we put in our calculator, C, the quantity squared, minus 2 times B, and our B value once again was 14. So let's put that 14 in. And then we're going to put times that C value again. Now, as long as we put this directly into our calculator and then store this A value in alpha A or some other letter, We can then use it to find angle B. Here we go. Once again, directly into the calculator. Don't try to do anything fancy. Second function cosine, alpha y equals gives me the fraction. 10 squared minus 14 squared minus alpha c, the quantity squared, divided by negative 2 times that 14. Oh, make sure you multiply. Times 14 times alpha c. We're now going to close the parenthesis and hit enter. This is our angle. We now know angle A. I'm going to store it in alpha A. That way I can subtract it from 180 degrees along with the 60 degrees in order to find my angle B. I'm going to write it down, 43.8978 degrees. We're now going to find angle B. It is also an approximate amount. 180 minus 60 minus alpha A gives me angle B. I now write this down and I have it done. Now it's important that you remember, once you start a problem in the law of cosine, you must remain in the law of cosine until the end. Don't try to use the law of sine halfway in between. Likewise, if you're working with the law of sine, don't shift to the law of cosine. It's not going to help you. You will always end up with a problem, and that won't do you any good. So here we have an example of finding an angles with the law of cosine, finding a missing side with the law of cosine. Now the only other type of problem that we could have is what happens if they give me all three sides. Here, let's take a problem that we can work on. Let's say that we are told that A is equal to 11, B is equal to 6, and C is equal to 14. Notice that we're going to use that formula. We just have to decide which angle do we want to work with first. If we start by finding angle A, we're going to have that arc cosine again. We're then going to put our A squared, because that's what we're finding the angle to, minus B squared minus C squared, divided by our negative 2BC. And then I'm going to have to find angle B, or angle C. Arc cosine, B squared minus A squared minus C squared, divided by negative 2AC, the quantity. Now we have the information we need to put this in. So we're looking at the arc cosine of 11 squared minus 6 squared minus 14 squared divided by negative 2 times 6 times 14. For this one, we know we have the arc cosine. We're finding B, so B goes first. 6 squared minus 11 squared minus 14 squared divided by negative 2 times 11 times 14. Notice all I did was take my formulas and solve for A and B. We're now going to put them in our calculator. Once we find A and B and store them in our calculator, we will then subtract both of them from 180 and find angle C. Here we go. Second function cosine, alpha y equals. Then we're going to put 11 squared, so I'm using this formula, 11 squared minus 6 squared minus 14 squared, divided by negative 2 times the 6 times the 14. Close the parenthesis, hit enter. I'm going to immediately store this. This was my A, so store in alpha A. And I now have my first angle. So I have angle A is approximately 48.6456 degrees. We're now going to find angle B. Once again, using my calculator directly as I have it. Second function cosine. Alpha y equals for the fraction, and now put 6 squared minus 11 squared minus 14 squared all over negative 2 times 11 times 14. Hit enter. Store it in alpha B because that's the angle that it was. And we can now list angle B. Angle B will be approximately 24.1695 degrees. We're now going to find angle C by taking 180 degrees and subtracting our alpha A minus our alpha B. Hitting enter, we find that angle C should be approximately 107.1847 degrees. I'm now going to list the other information that I have to complete my solution. Please remember, you need to have all sides and all angles in order to have a solution to a triangle. There it is. That is our solution using the law of cosine. I hope this has helped you. If it has, please remember to click like. If you have suggestions or think that something else should be altered, please let me know and I will be more than happy to try my best to do this video again. Thank you very much. Take care and be safe, everyone. Remember, it's easy to be mean, so try to be nice to each other. That's the best way we can work to change the world. Bye-bye now. Cheers.